Thursday. We are live tonight here in my kitchen. Let me get a little more situated here so I can see ya. Hi! I'm Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and I hope you can see me a little more clearly this week than you could last week. I had a little bit of a connection problem with my live chat, so hopefully you can see me. Say hello. Let me know where you're joining me this evening. I'm Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. Hey, Krista, thanks for joining me, and all clear, awesome. That's great to hear. So if you're new to my channel and you're new to my live chats, welcome. If you join me regularly, welcome back. I am normally out in my garden when I'm live, but tonight we're doing something a little different. You know, we grow so much produce, and I try to share different recipes and things so that people can have a better idea. Hey, Alan, there's so many amazing recipes available for your homegrown produce, but sometimes we get into a funk or a rut, and we eat the same thing over and over again, or we prepare the same thing over and over again. I know I do that sometimes. So I wanted to share with you a couple of ways that I like to preserve some of my produce. And if you look at, hey, Deborah, thanks for joining us. If you go to Mary's Heirloom Seeds, hey, Sean, thanks for joining us. What's for dinner, Krista says. So tonight we're making herb roasted tomatoes. Hey, Lydia, thanks for joining us as well. So, and Idaho Garden Girl, welcome. So before I get started to the actual recipe for my video, I always like to share what is in the description section, because it's the same with a couple additions every time. So in the description section, you will find links to my comprehensive planting guide. You'll find links to my sign up for our emails. You will also find a link to something new at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, which is a calcium and magnesium supplement, which helps me grow these beautiful tomatoes with no blossom end rot. And then you'll also find, drum roll, a link to the recipe we're using today. So I'll give you a brief rundown of what's in my recipe in just a moment. I have about 9 minutes till my first batch comes out, and then I've got another batch we're gonna put in. So just a quick update before we get into the actual recipe. I've got a couple of announcements. Number one, my heirloom tomato seed sale is ending on the 30th, and today is June 29th. So you've got a little more than 24 hours. You can save 25% on all heirloom tomato seeds at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. So you go to marysheirloomseeds.com, you add some stuff to your cart, and you use the code tomato25. And that will get you 25% off all of your heirloom tomato seeds. We also announced yesterday, in case you aren't signed up for our emails, we also announced a garlic pre-order. So you can place your order for garlic to get you your garlic shipped to you in fall for our fall planting. We're actually more than halfway sold out already. So if you really want to purchase garlic, seed garlic, not seeds, but seed garlic, now's the time to do so. And then we also have a July giveaway going live on July 1st or 2nd. So that is super awesome and exciting news. Krista, you got your order in, and I did see your special note, so I will definitely make a note of that and send you an email before we get started to shipping garlic. So for those of you that don't know, I do actually answer all of the emails. So if you have got a question, if you don't get your question answered during my live chat, you can send an email to Mary at marysheirloomseeds.com, and I will answer. So we are making herb roasted tomatoes tonight, and these are all fresh homegrown tomatoes straight from my garden. And the recipe is so simple and so easy. The ingredients are so simple as well. So I'm going to give you the rundown on the recipe ingredients first, and then I'll give you a rundown on how we make this. So first of all, of course, we have tomatoes. So I'm using a range of different tomatoes for this tonight. It's a very versatile option, making herb roasted tomatoes. You can use this as a base for so many different recipes. So we're going to get started first with just the roasted portion of the recipe. I've got San Marzano tomatoes, I have, these are fun, speckled Roman tomatoes. And then tonight, as a little special treat, I also have, what are these? Japanese black trifle tomatoes. And the color, you can't really see it in the video, but the color of these is pretty awesome. Similar to a Cherokee purple tomato. You could actually use Cherokee purple tomatoes in this recipe if you really wanted to. You don't have to use any certain kind. Sean says herb roasted tomato sounds good. Yep, let's go ahead and get started with the rest of the ingredients. So we have 2 pounds or more, depending on what kind of ingredients or recipe that you want that we're gonna roast today. I've already chopped up a couple. So with this, we're gonna half or quarter or more than quarter, depending on how large it is. If it's a small tomato, you can halve them. If it's a medium, you can quarter them. That way you've got, I've already got them all ready for you. And now we've got our herbs, right? So we have, yummy, we've got rosemary, we've got thyme, we've got oregano, and these are all fresh from the garden. If you don't have fresh from the garden, you can totally use whatever you have dried, but tonight I'm using fresh because fresh is so amazing. And then I also have garlic. Speaking of garlic, I love garlic. So if you are going to use this as a sauce and you plan on blending it at a later time, which is what I plan on doing for this particular batch, you don't have to use crushed garlic. You can just simply use what I have here, and those are just garlic cloves. So I've already prepped my herbs and I'm ready to go for this. That way I can literally just toss it in the bowl when I'm ready and I don't have to actually pick everything apart while I'm live. And then just simple salt and pepper, which I have here as well. So again, I kind of made it a little simple. If you want the print version, the non-video version, in the description section, you can find the link to the recipe on our website. Sean says, can this also be used for spaghetti sauce? Absolutely. Now, I mentioned in my recipe on marysheirloomseeds.com on the blog, I mentioned that this can be a base for so many different things. Now, you can serve herb roasted tomatoes by themselves as maybe a side or as a garnish. You can serve them cool with maybe some goat cheese on maybe a little baguette, right? Or you can blend it and use it as a sauce or as a soup. So what I'm going to use for this at a later time when I make my next batch, I'm going to use this and blend it down, and I'm going to use some heavy cream to make a creamy tomato soup. Kind of fun, right? What you can also do is freeze this. So if you have more tomatoes than you know what to do with, and you're not really ready to process anything, maybe you're busy. I'm busy. Sometimes I don't always have time to make sure that I process this stuff, and I don't want it to go bad. So if I don't want to break out the can, I can make this massive batch of herb roasted tomatoes, and I can either freeze it right after I've roasted it, or I can blend it and freeze it for a later time as well. So again, this is a really versatile recipe. So okay, let's go ahead and get started in making it. The total time to roast is 35 minutes. And I already have a batch going, and I've got about 3 minutes till it's ready to come out of the oven. So I'm gonna go ahead and share with you a couple things while I'm doing it. By the way, for those of you who have questions, please feel free to ask. I always try to answer questions while I'm live, but again, if I miss you because I'm cooking and running around, you can always ask at a later time. You can send me an email. Please don't take offense in case I don't answer your question, because sometimes I don't always see it. So I'm a little far away, but as you can see, I'm quartering. These are paste tomatoes, so there's a little less moisture. There's a lot less water content in a paste tomato. And that's kind of why I'm doing this for these here. And then I also have a small bowl over here that I always keep for scraps. My chickens love scraps. Oh, Sean says, what temperature should the oven be? Thank you for asking that question. My oven is set for 450. That's in the recipe, but I totally forgot to mention. So you want to preheat your oven to 450. Thank you very much. You want to obviously make sure that it's completely preheated before you go ahead and throw everything in. And I'm gonna add these. Look at the delicious color really quick. So this is a speckled Roman tomato. I cut the top and the bottom off because it got a little funky on the outside. And then look at this beautiful inside. Yum. Oh, I'm so excited. I almost tripped over a cat. That was Max. Sorry, Max. They don't get on the counter, but they do go under my feet. And I do try not to cook with them under my feet because I get a little nervous with hot stuff pulling out of the oven. So again, you can use just about any type of tomato you have. You can actually use cherry tomatoes for this as well. It would come out really well. All right, so we have our tomatoes all chopped and ready to go. Now we have our salt and pepper. And we need olive oil. So I have two types of olive oil that I'm going to use for this. If you want to make a spicier sauce, you can actually add hot pepper flakes to this. You can add fresh hot peppers if you want. I love adding cayenne pepper to things. So if you want a spicier sauce, that might be an option for you as well. You can actually add your peppers here before you throw it in to get roasting. So that's another option as well. Now I have my herbs and my garlic. I'm gonna throw that in there as well. And last but certainly not least is olive oil. Now you can use whatever type of olive oil you have. I have chili infused olive oil. And the recipe says, I believe it says approximately 4 tablespoons. Just go with it. You can totally add whatever you want. Connie's dog says sounds delicious. There is my, we're just gonna drizzle on. I'm not gonna use all, actually, I lied. I'm gonna use all the hot pepper. This is chili infused olive oil, which is delicious. Now, before I start mixing this up, I need to check because I think my tomatoes are ready. Oops. Safety first. Oh, these are gorgeous. Now you'll have to forgive my fogged up glasses here. Look at that. Yay! Look how beautiful those are. Okay, give me a second. I got totally fogged up glasses here. Like steamed my face while I'm doing it. All right, so now that we have all of our ingredients in the bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and mix. You wanna make sure that all of your tomatoes are completely covered with the different spices and the oil we added. And when you add this to a pan, now I don't like using baking pans or baking sheets. They just get super messy. I really prefer a glass pan, like a cake pan or something like that. And that also keeps the splatter from completely destroying my oven. So I'm gonna use baking pans. You can use whatever you want, really and truly. But when you add this to your pan, whatever container you use, you wanna make sure that you have an even single layer, that you don't have everything stacked up, because that will give you the best roasted flavor for this. So I have enough in this bowl, probably for 2 pans. So you're just gonna add a couple here, you're gonna spread it out. Yep. I have plenty for 2. All right, so since my oven's already heated, so I figured I would do a couple batches tonight. I'm gonna kind of run through most of my ripe tomatoes tonight, and as you can see, I had to pull some of my unripe stuff off the plants because some of these tomato plants are just so heavily loaded with tomatoes that they're falling off, and I lost a couple branches. So I wanted to make sure that I brought those in so that they can ripen on the counter at least, and the bugs don't get them outside. So we have a full pan ready to go. It's just a single layer. It's not super stacked up. We're gonna throw it in the oven. Careful not to burn my face this time. And then we have another pan, like I mentioned. Again, you want to make sure that you have it all even, a single layer of tomatoes. Oh, this is just, I wish I could get a picture, but I can't take a picture while I'm live. But isn't that beautiful? All right, so we're gonna do this. Throw it in there again. Ta-da! So it's really not that difficult. Now I mentioned earlier, there's so many ways that you could use this, and I was thinking about the different ways. So recently I posted a recipe for garlic skate pesto, and I use zucchini noodles called zoodles. This is a perfect recipe. I can take this herb, I can take that pan of herb roasted tomatoes and I can blend it up, and then I can toss it on top of my zoodles. Krista said salsa. Yes, I did mention that in my recipe that you can definitely use this for salsa. You can use this on just, the sky's the limit, people. Please feel free to share your feedback. If you go to marysheirloomseeds.com, go to Mary's blog, and you can actually find that recipe. It's the first thing I posted. Give me your feedback. Let me know if you make this recipe. Let me know what you would like to use this recipe for. And let me know if you've already made it before and if you liked it and how you stored it. So I also want to mention ways to preserve this. And I mean, you really aren't going to can this, but you can freeze it. So this batch, if I wanted to, because it already has crushed garlic. So there's two options. I already added the crushed garlic, so this is perfect. It's ready to use right away. I can blend this if I want to, or I can use it just the way it is. So in this way, if I was going to store it, I would just place it in a freezer safe container and freeze it. Done. Super easy. Now, if for the one that is in the oven now, because I use the full chunks of garlic, for that one, I would blend it before I froze it if I was going to use it that way. That way, I would get the full flavor of the garlic. And another thing, if I'm going to make pasta sauce, I'm going to add fresh basil. That's one thing that I don't use when I baked this was adding the basil. So I'm going to add that fresh. When I toss it into a blender, I'm going to add it fresh, and that way I have a really flavorful sauce, salsa, however, whatever you're going to use it for. Krista says, any idea how long it will freeze? I don't have an idea on that one. I generally use it up before it would really go bad. It really depends, I think, on the type of container you use. If you're using something that might get freezer burn, you really don't want to leave it in the freezer for very long. Hey Christine, thanks for joining us. I wouldn't store it for more than a year in the freezer. I typically store things for about 6 months before I use it up. And you want to make sure you label it. So I've got a lot of rolls of blue tape, and I use that as a way to label some of my house items, food items. Hey Tom, thanks for joining us. We're almost done, but you can always watch the replay at a later time. So make sure when you do freeze this that you label it with what it is and the date. That way you're not looking at this as a mystery meal, mystery sauce, and you don't really know what you preserved. So those are two ways you can do it. You can blend it before you freeze it, or you can just freeze them as the chunks of roasted tomato. I am going to use this tonight with something delicious. I don't even know what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. It's almost 5:30, and I'm just going to go ahead and wing it for dinner tonight. Thanks, Tom. Alrighty, everybody. So I am Mary's Heirloom Seeds. I hope you enjoyed a super easy recipe. It's literally titled Easy Herb Roasted Tomatoes. So it's one of the simpler recipes. It doesn't require a whole slew of grocery store items. You can go outside. I literally went outside and harvested most of this about an hour before I went live. So obviously you can see on the counter I have a ton of stuff I just harvested as well. So most of the stuff I just harvested, brought it in, chopped it up, tossed it in the oven, and you're good to go. So it didn't take a lot of effort. And if you're like me and you're looking at your garden going, yay, lots and lots of produce and what am I going to do with it? This is one of many options that you can use. So just to recap, the tomato seed sale is ending on June 30th, 2023. The discount code is tomato25, and you're going to use that at checkout to save 25% on heirloom tomato seeds at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Garlic pre-orders. So we talked about garlic tonight. Don't miss out on garlic, because once it's gone this year, it's gone. We're not going to have any extras in October, most likely. So definitely get your orders in as soon as you can. And then stay tuned, because we have a July giveaway coming up that is super exciting. Our giveaways are always super exciting. So I hope you enjoyed another fun video. I'm in the kitchen today instead of in the garden. And if you have any questions, you can always send an email to Mary@MarysHeirloomSeeds.com. I'm Mary, signing off, and happy cooking.